Hello and welcome to The Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Samuely. With me today, of course, is co-founder of The Gaggle, Peter Lavelle. So, Peter, the other day, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban said that with the sanctions policy, the EU didn't shoot itself in the foot, it shot itself in the heart and lungs. Clearly, the Orban is in some trouble. His economy is in serious turmoil. The Hungarian forint is sinking like a rock, and the EU is clearly playing a role in all of this. They hate him, and they're punishing him now. But he obviously made an important point, and it's a point that our good friend Josep Borrell, the chief foreign policy man for the European Union, has decided to address in his blog. He likes to blog, Burrell, the Burrell blog. And so he's now come up with arguments to suggest, no, not true that the EU is suffering badly from the sanctions. No, the sanctions are working, and it's the Russians who are suffering. So let me just show a little bit from that blog. And so we are.
He has a lot of time on his hands, George.
He does have a lot of time on it, but what are you going to do? I mean, it's like, well, I'm the foreign policy chief. It's like, what kind of a job is that? I didn't even know you had a foreign policy. So it says, now as the war drags on and the cost of energy rises, people in Europe and elsewhere ask whether these sanctions are working and or whether the side effects are too great. Without underestimating the different problems that could occur, including attempts made to bypass them, sanctions remain an important instrument of political action. But for sure, we need to use them in a well-targeted manner, and above all, they require strategic patience. And then he goes on, and then one of the main sanctions adopted is to stop buying 90% of EU oil supplies from Russia by the end of 2022, depriving Moscow of corresponding revenues. Yes, Russia is able to sell its oil to other markets. However, the benefit is limited by the fact that Russia is forced to give high discounts on each barrel. And in addition, this is perhaps the most important point, this gradual oil embargo and the scaling back of the import of gas liberates Europe from its energy dependence on Russia. And so he's saying, yeah, this is really great. We're going to liberate ourselves from Russian energy, and then what? I mean, you know.
Okay, you'll be independent in poverty. Okay, good.
Exactly. Right. So, I'm not going to take your stinking money anymore. Okay, then what are you going to do?
How is it here or there or anywhere important how much Russia sells its oil at a discount to other people?
Exactly. What's it to him? I mean, cutting our structural energy dependence on Russia matters a lot because this dependence has been an obstacle to developing a strong European policy toward Moscow's aggressive actions. This dependence probably played an important role in Putin's initial calculations in Ukraine. He may have believed that the EU would never sanction Russia seriously because it was too dependent on energy. This was one of his most important blunders when launching the war. Notice he goes all these may, and then suddenly said, oh, this is one of his important blunders. What's your evidence for thinking that that's what was going on in Putin's mind, that the EU wouldn't sanction? I mean, you don't know that, they had sanctions after sanctions. I don't think Putin thought, well, the Europeans won't go that far. I mean, that's a bridge too far for the Europeans. Why would he think that?
Well, isn't it interesting? This is such part of a pattern. Everybody that talks about Russia and the Russian government and Vladimir Putin, all through the mainstream, all cable, and our favorite Burrell, who is a gift that keeps on giving, they all know what the Russian government is doing in planning. They all know it, okay? And none of them have gotten it right yet. I mean, who would have thought that changing your markets, you'd end up making more money, not less, okay? Europe is impoverishing itself, and Russia is going to the bank. I mean, it wasn't hard to figure that out, okay? And was it planned in advance? Of course it was. Okay.
Right. Yeah,
Called geopolitics, Mr.
that's right.
Burrell.
That's right. So it says, of course, this rapid detoxification from Russian energy involves significant costs for a number of countries. Oh, that's nice. That's good. It's nice that you acknowledge that. And we will have to face. However, it is the price to pay to defend our democracies and international law. We have to handle these consequences by reinforcing our internal solidarity. And that is what we are doing. By breaking its energy dependence in line with its climate ambition, the EU is learning that interdependence is not always a neutral instrument that is beneficial to all, or a means, I guess, to guarantee peaceful international relations. Notice now how underlying it all is this little climate agenda.
Yeah.
Because these people, Burrell, and Johnson and all the rest of them, this is their agenda, this climate agenda. So I think this is great. We're going to get ourselves, off Russian fossil fuels. But that's part of it. We just hate fossil fuels. We want to get rid of fossil fuels altogether. Why they think that, who the hell knows? Because the truth is, people like Burrell, Ursula von der Leyen, they've never actually done anything in their lives other than politicking. I mean, this is all they've done their whole life. From as soon as they graduated from college, they spent it in politics. So they don't know the first thing about energy, fossil fuels, or anything other than politics and making these political statements.
George, all of these people, they like to go to their fancy confabs, if it's going to a summit in Madrid or something like that. I think they all take jets, don't they?
I think they do.
Yeah. Probably private too.
That's right.
However, it is the price to pay to defend our democracies and international law. By confiscating without any
compensation.
Right. I mean, you break your own laws, you confiscate property. I mean, George and I have said this repeatedly. One of the pillars of Western civilization is the sanctity of private property. Well, where's your international law there? Okay. Right. And George is right. I mean, this is something that is become so obvious over the last few months. I mean, they're angry with Russia, but this is a wedge for them to get what they want that nobody will vote for, and that's their Green New Deal.
That's it, exactly. Because when they had that Greta Thunberg, all the Boris Johnsons, they listened to Greta Thunberg. Nobody else took anything she said seriously. Now they can actually get this through and do it, in this surreptitious way. Oh, it's all about punishing Russia. It's about international law. It's not about our half-baked ideas about renewables.
Yeah, but wait, also, can you go back?
Yeah.
Okay. However, it is the price to pay to defend our democracies. Well, has anybody voted on any of this, George?
No.
I don't think people will. Yeah, I want to vote for higher gas prices. I'll vote for more wool sweaters in the winter. Nobody's doing that. Okay, this is an elite project. He has no interest in the average citizen of the EU that he claims to be representing as the foreign policy chief. Okay, what is his official title?
It's called something like EU High Representative for Foreign and Security Affairs, something like that. Got EU High Representative. That's
it sounds so princely, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Are the sanctions really hurting the Russian economy? Some have argued that they are not very effective because the exchange rate of the Russian currency is very high, but this interpretation is dubious. The exchange rate of the ruble simply reflects the fact that Russia has a massive imbalance between the high volume of oil and gas exports and the parallel collapse of imports that has followed the sanctions. This trade surplus is not a sign of good economic health, especially for an economy like Russia. While exporting unprocessed raw materials, Russia must import many high-value products that it does not manufacture. For advanced technology products, Russia depends on Europe for more than 45%, blah, blah, blah. Russia may, of course, try to limit the effects of sanctions by substituting imports. It says this was done not without success in the agricultural sectors after 2014. However, for high-tech products, import substitution is much more difficult to achieve. Well, it may be difficult. Why would it be impossible? I don't really understand. I mean, if you've got a nice surplus on your currency account, chances are you'll be able to buy whatever you need. I mean, you only have it's a problem when you have a deficit. And that means you don't have the cash on hand to be able to make purchases. So I don't quite see why, this is supposed to be some terrible crisis.
Well, Mr. Burrell isn't very well informed about the Russian economy. Ever since 2008, not 2014, has import substitution taken on a vengeance here, okay? The Soviet Union was completely blockaded by the West, and it still put a man in space. So I don't really get this here. That's exactly right. Again, this is this patronizing attitude. Oh, you need us. No, and anyway, Mr. Burrell, can you tell me one case where sanctions have actually worked in the way that they were intended? Right. Or, particularly of a large economy. Sure, if you Honduras, you want to stamp it into the ground, yeah, I suppose you can do it, okay? Right. But with Iran, with Russia, even North Korea, where they seem to get around a lot of things. Right. So again, are the sanctions really hurting the Russian economy? Here, the fact that he's asking the question, he knows that they aren't, at least not in the intended way. That's right. That's it. Well, he does this in his blog all of the time. Right. All of that. No. Sanctions aren't blocking agricultural products. And he has to say it over and over and over again because he's trying to convince himself. He's not trying to convince his reader. Exactly. He's trying to convince himself. That's right. But he did have Orban's saying, "Hey, they haven't done anything. They haven't achieved, the sanctions haven't achieved anything." And it says, "Hey, we didn't shoot ourselves in the foot. We shot ourselves in the heart and lungs." So that's a kind of an embarrassment. Somebody within the EU who says this, and so he has. Well, no. We're in good shape. It's they who are suffering. And then he's saying sanctions on semiconductor imports, for instance, have a direct impact on Russian companies that produce consumer electronics, computer, blah blah. In this field, which is obviously crucial in the war in Ukraine, sanctions limit Russia's capacity to produce precision missiles. On the ground, Russian army is not making much use of this type of precision-guided missiles, not out of moderation, but out of necessity, as it does not have enough of them. In addition, the Russian Air Force has underperformed in Ukraine because it lacks precision-guided munition. What is the source for this? Where are you getting this stuff from? This is ridiculous. He's just pulling this out of the air. Okay, I can't fathom how he can claim that he knows these things. Right. Okay. I mean, maybe he's listening to British intelligence. The British Ministry of Defense. That's the kind of stuff they put this out every day. I mean, if you're going to believe them, well, you have a problem. Everybody should know how Russian military hardware is developed. You know what happens, George? Is that they come on across a good thing in the 50s or the 60s, and you know what they do? They constantly improve upon it. They don't. We need a brand new weapon system. They just pour all this money into it, and it doesn't work. The Russians don't do that. The Russians are actually very frugal when it comes to spending on the military because they want more bang for the buck. Okay, and they get it. What Burrell is saying, where's your footnote? Where's the hyperlink? Because this is just on its face. Exactly. No, it would have been useful if you'd done the hyperlink, because then we'd have looked. Is this just coming from the UK Ministry of Defense or from the Pentagon? Bellingcat. Exactly. And then it says the Russian oil industry will suffer. Russia, as the world's second largest oil producer, is still earning large sums selling its oil. But over time, the Russian oil industry will suffer not only from the departure of foreign operators, but also from its increasing difficulty in accessing sophisticated technologies such as horizontal drilling. In fact, the capacity of Russia to put new wells in production will be very limited, which will lead to a drop in production. And then there's the airline industry, and then blah, blah. Russia will have to sacrifice a large part of its fleet to find spare parts, and then so blah, blah. Even Russian-produced aircraft are dependent on technologies, and so on. So you can see now where he's going. He's decided to gamble everything on this
the lack of technologies. Now, as you said, the Soviet Union wasn't able to get any technologies, still produced an awful lot of oil. It got its oil fields working, and it managed to put a space station, create a space station, but had a space program, to rival that of the United States. This seems to be a thin reed to hang your policy on, that they're not going to be able to get this sophisticated technology.
But over time, the Russian oil industry will suffer not only from the departure of foreign operators, but also from increasingly difficulty in accessing sophisticated technologies. Look, it's just the reverse, Mr. Burrell. You're not informed. Look what's going on in the Sakhalin projects. The Russians want the foreigners out. They want them out now, okay? And they'll have, I'm specifically talking about the Japanese, it's very much up in the air because they want to stay, and the Russians are saying, well, you sanctioned us, so I mean, this is like an act of God, and you did it. It's self-inflicted on you, okay? And so bring in the Indians, bring in the Chinese, or maybe they'll just do it on their own, okay?
Right.
They don't need, see, this is a fundamental misunderstanding. Again, Russia needs the outside world. I have said repeatedly ever since February 24th, there are difficulties here. There will be more difficulties here. There's going to be a lot of adjustment going on, but that's what it is, George. You solve problems, okay? Burrell is looking for an excuse over and over again why it's a good idea when he knows he wouldn't be writing this if he knew it was a bad idea.
Well,
he tells us all the time.
So, yeah, because he has to explain, look, there's horrific situation developing in Europe, horrific situation developing in the world. Winter's coming. It always comes around. You're not going to stop winter. It's hot, nice and hot now. It's not going to stay hot. So winter's going to come inevitably, and there's going to be a problem. So he has to then explain why it is you are pursuing a policy that the people on whose behalf you speak, the European people on whose behalf you speak, are going to have to endure a lot of hardship. Oh, no, the Russians won't be able to get their hands on sophisticated technology. Does anyone seriously believe this? Does anyone seriously believe, the Russians, they're not going to be able to, these are very sophisticated people. I mean, the Russian scientists, everyone's known that they are very, very sophisticated, very skilled, very able. They're not going to be able to get their hands on sophisticated technology. No one's going to believe such nonsense.
Well, I remember a few years ago when I was at the Valdai discussion group. I guess this was like back going before 2014, around 2014, and the same argument. They won't be able to. They don't have the technology for a deep sea drilling. They need it from Norway or something like. And I was just mystified. I said, well, it's a problem that they'll have to solve, and probably better to do it on their own and not be dependent on other countries' technologies. Right, okay. Autarky is not the goal of the Russian economy. No, it is to be able to work with reliable partners. That's what it's all about. Okay. And you know what, George? Remarkably, for the West, over the last 3.5 months or so, there's a lot of willingness, openness. Dmitry Trenin wrote a very, very interesting. He's had an awakening, this guy. I mean, this is his third big article that he's come out since the conflict started. And looking at the global South, looking at the East, there are a lot of other opportunities out there. They're not dumb people. Okay, the Indians are very sophisticated people. Very okay. So I mean, Burrell is just giving an apology here. Why Europe has screwed up and they can't go back.
That's right. And it says Moscow may claim that its relations with many countries remain intact. However, in reality, sanctions against Russia are also hurting its trade with non-sanctioning countries like China. The alternative offered by China to the Russian economy remains indeed limited. Although Beijing seems to want to make ideological gestures by siding with Moscow, refusing to condemn its invasion, or taking up the Russian narrative on the threat of NATO, it is overall rather careful regarding helping Russia circumvent the sanctions. While its imports from Russia have risen, Chinese exports to Russia have decreased in proportion that are comparable to those of Western countries.
I don't think that's true.
I don't think so either. And
my personal experience is that over ever since 2014, and particularly in this year, I see more and more Chinese products, more and more. Okay, maybe I'm just thinking of fast-moving consumer goods, but empirically,
but again, one would like to see, what the the numbers. And again, it may just be that the Russians, are cutting back on purchases because they want to maintain their current account surplus for a rainy day. I mean, exactly. So in other words, they're making sure that they're not wasting their money on non-essential products. So that may well be the reason why Chinese imports have gone down. Russians want to spend their money wisely in the face of the Western sanctions.
and you indirectly bring up such an important point. Russia's foreign debt exposure is virtually zero. Okay, domestically, it is very much under control. The banking system here is so conservative, it is infuriating how conservative it is. So, Mr. Burrell, can you maybe write your next blog about how indebted the European Union is and how it's making the European Union so lethargic? And I read it yesterday, but the Germans have gone over a tipping point. I think they're going to have to start.
I want to, after this, I want to highlight a very interesting article that appeared today in the Financial Times, which put again, as a counterpoint to what Burrell is saying. So it says here, even if it does not admit it publicly, China is probably, I like the word probably, highly likely, probably worried that this war could strengthen the position of the United States, not only in Europe, but also in Asia, with a strong involvement of countries such as Japan and South Korea in responding to Russia's aggression. That's not exactly what China is aiming at. Well, I mean, if the United States position in Europe is strengthened, that's on you, Borrell. It's not to do with China. I mean, what's it to China? Okay, well, we just simply know in Europe, the United States position is strengthened. I don't understand why the United States position will be strengthened in Asia. I mean, that I don't quite get that. I mean, so, it would if the Asians decided to go down NATO United States path, but they're not doing that. So I don't understand where the US position is strengthened.
I don't either. And unfortunately, I think Burrell isn't thinking in terms of military alliances. But that doesn't cut the mustard in Asia whatsoever, okay? Because Burrell is representing a part of the world that is lackluster when it comes to productivity and growth. The growth is in the East. So I don't think, I think he has a military mindset. I think he's thinking about, this ridiculous idea of NATO moving into the Pacific, which, North Atlantic, has kind of grounds it there. But again, I find his reasoning to be flaccid. I'm not really sure what he means by that.
No, I think so either. And he says, as a result, latest figures released by the Bank of Russia show that transactions through the Russian payment system are down 7.2% in June compared to the first quarter of 2022. This is a real-time indicator of the important slowdown in the Russian economy. It's not an indicator of that at all. I mean, any number of reasons why they would want to slow down the transactions through the Russian payment system. I mean, it's, while this war is going on, you don't really want to start splurging your money, left, right, and center.
Yes, and I'm not sure which Russian payment system he's actually talking about. I wish he would identify it specifically, okay? Because there's an internal one, there's a growing international one, that is linking up with the global south. So Burrell needs to put it in asterisk. That's right. What payment system are you talking about?
That's right. It says, of course, the biggest question of all is this: will the sanctions and the real effects they have lead Putin changing his strategic calculations? And if so, when? Here we need to be cautious and recognize that his actions have always been disconnected from economic considerations. Putin believes in the magical power of political voluntarism. However, this cannot last forever. Hence, Europe must show strategic patience. The war will be long, and the test of strength will last. We have no other choice. Allowing Russia to prevail would mean allowing it to destroy our democracies and the very basis of the international rules-based world order. Um, this is, of course, very, very interesting because you have to then ask, how is Russia, whatever you think about what's going on in Ukraine, how is Russia in any way threatening our democracies? You put yourself into this war. I mean, you got into a fight and then said, oh, he's threatening to hurt us. I mean, no one asked you to get involved in a fight that had nothing to do with you. I mean, now you're complaining that he might hurt you.
Allowing Russia to prevail would mean allowing it to destroy our democracies. No, your economic turndown and economic catastrophe is going to destroy your democracies. It has nothing to do with Russia whatsoever. It's a very callous and craven, knee-jerk, emotional reaction. And for God's sake, international rules-based order, that is nothing. It means nothing.
Yes.
It only represents a state of mind that we're right and you're wrong. That's all it means.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Exactly. And it says, even if sanctions do not change the Russian trajectory in the short term, that does not mean that they are useless, for they do affect sheer amount of resources it has to wage its war. Without sanctions, Russia would have its cake and eat it, as the expression goes. With sanctions, it will be forced to choose between butter and guns, locking Putin in a vice that is gradually tightening. Well, I mean, we kind of, whether they don't have butter and guns, but it's still, they're not going to lose this war. So that means you're saying you're going to impose the sanctions in order to hurt the public, the people, the civilians, in the knowledge that it's actually not going to make the slightest bit of difference. Where's the morality and the rules involved in that? I mean, you basically, no, it's not going to stop it. I mean, you kind of said it isn't going to stop. So the only thing you have at your disposal is to try to hurt as many people as possible, try to hurt the Russian people.
And how does this help Ukraine?
Exactly.
Okay. If Burrell wants to go belt tightening versus belt tightening, I know which side is going to call uncle first. Okay. Believe me. Okay. Russia has a bumper crop this year. I mean, it's a very good year for agriculture. Okay.
Right.
As the world is experiencing very high food prices, Russia is one of the meccas for grains and other agricultural goods. Okay. So, for the rich West, for the first time in our lifetime, George, people are seriously worried about food prices. Okay, seriously. Okay, because it is you have to decide on food or something else. Okay, never in our lifetime was that ever a choice. Now it is, and it's very real.
That's right. Finally, let me raise here the issue of the alleged or real impact of sanctions on third countries, particularly African countries.
Here we go. Here we go. We can't let this go. He can't let this go.
Because he thinks that he's the big friend of the third world. I'm the friend of the poor. His background is being, I guess he was a figure on the left in Spanish politics. So he has to feel that I'm the great friend of the downtrodden, the poor, the people of color. I've done so much for them. Here it is very clear where responsibility lies for the food crisis. We go back to it. It's very clear. It's very clear. Our sanctions do not target Russian wheat or fertilizer exports.
I think he feels guilty, George. This is a guilty conscience here.
Yes, yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's a tell. It's like when we discussed it the other day. It's like when they say it was an unprovoked attack on Ukraine. It's like a guilty conscience. I have to keep saying it was unprovoked. They can't say, it was just illegal. It has to be illegal and unprovoked. And it is until now Russia's aggression and its blockade of the Black Sea that is preventing Ukraine from exporting its wheat. We hope, however, that the negotiations led by the Secretary General, blah, blah, will enable this issue to be resolved quickly. I have informed my African counterparts that we are ready to assist them with any difficulties they may encounter related with our sanctions, while urging them not to be fooled by the Russian authorities' lies and disinformation regarding.
He gave it away. He gives it away. He gives it right away. Well, ready to assist them with any difficulties they may encounter related to our sanctions.
Exactly.
Burrell, a few days ago, you said it had nothing to do with
That's
sanctions.
right. No, exactly. You know, yeah, exactly. He blurts this out while urging them not to be fooled by Russian authorities' lies and disinformation. And then it says, "Oh, we're back to the battle of the narratives."
Oh, you can't let this one go too.
Exactly.
Okay.
The real answer is to bring an end to the war, and this can only be achieved by Russia's withdrawal from Ukraine. I keep reminding all our international partners that respect for territorial integrity of states and the non-use of force are not Western or European principles. Well, they are. I mean,
can you spell Kosovo? Can you spell Serbia?
Exactly. Yeah, since when? When did that happen? They are the basis of international law, and Russia is blithely trampling on them. To accept such a violation would open the door to the law of the jungle on a global scale. It's a little like that saying. It's attributed to Mahatma Gandhi when he was supposedly asked, what's your opinion of Western civilization? And he said, I think it would be a good idea. So it's like, well, it's not a European principle, really. I mean, I thought he went to the heart of the European principle just to carve up states. So,
yeah.
But anyway,
Afghanistan, Syria,
right.
Libya,
Right.
Serbia. I mean, we can go on and on. Burrell, it's really interesting. This is a guilty conscience. He's trying to cover his tracks, and he's trying to say, "Don't believe your lying eyes." Okay, yep. Believe me. And to his brethren in Africa, it's just, I don't, maybe he has some kind of connection there, but why does he keep about, don't blame me, don't blame me?
That's it. Yeah, exactly. I'm the good guy. I'm one of the good guys. You're treating me like a bad guy. So here today, we have a story in the Financial Times. Now, this is the Financial Times. This is, which is pro-war, not pro-war, but pro, NATO, support for Ukraine. Russian gas cuts threaten to shutter German industry. Many industrial companies have few options if supplies dwindle or Moscow halts its flows. And then he goes, amid rising tensions between Moscow and the West, Russia has drastically reduced its exports of gas. Berlin now fears a winter gas crisis that could paralyze industry and leave millions freezing in their homes. This is Berlin. We're not saying, oh, this is Budapest, because everyone says, oh, who the hell cares about Budapest? But this is
Bangladesh.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, this is Berlin. All eyes are on Nord Stream 1, the pipeline linking Russia directly to Europe via the Baltic Sea. And then they're talking about, last Monday, last Monday, Russia shut it down completely for routine maintenance. Normal circumstances, this lasts just 10 days, but the fear in Berlin is that NS1 will not come back into operation. So you're now afraid, after all the bluster we've just been reading from Burrell, we're afraid of, please, give us our natural gas, because it might bring our economies to their knees.
So we need to get off of Russian energy, but we have to have Russian energy. What's going on, George? It's like the Biden invisible handshake.
It's kind of head dizzy. What the hell? Great. We're getting off Russian energy, but give us our Russian energy. Russians are weaponizing energy. They're cutting us off energy. But we have to get rid of Russian energy.
and the West weaponized the SWIFT system. Okay, I mean,
yes.
It's always projection. Okay,
yes.
So I mean, if there were Mr. and Mrs. German, what do you want? Do you want the energy or you don't want it? Okay, come on, just give us a straight answer.
That's a good question. Exactly. Do you want? Yes, exactly. Do you want Russian gas or you don't want Russian gas? Just tell us which it is, because.
And Russia can deal with both answers.
That's right. Exactly. That's exactly right. And says a protracted cutoff beyond this week will stymie Germany's plans to stock up its gas storage ahead of the heating season. The resulting shortage means, then he quotes this Rothermel, the trade body, the German chemicals industry, the companies either have to reduce their gas consumption or curb production. Well, I guess. And then said, should flows cease completely, most economists expect the Eurozone's economic powerhouse to experience a severe fall in output. No gas this winter would, according to UBS, trigger a deep recession with almost 6% wiped off the GDP by the end of next year. The Bundesbank has warned that the knock-on effects on global supply chains would increase the original shock effect to 2.5 times the size. As industrial companies across Germany face the real prospect of life without natural gas, some are exploring ways of replacing it with other energy sources. But for those with fuel-specific hardware or those who use it as raw material, there is no alternative. And then it talks about ThyssenKrupp, one of the big giants, steel makers, said that without natural gas, for processes required to run its blast furnaces, shutdown and technical damage to our production facilities cannot be ruled out. And then BASF, the huge chemicals company, one of the biggest, has warned that the steam crackers at its gargantuan site, would be forced to idle if gas supplies drop below about 50%. And the government is preparing for a crisis. And what are they going to do? They're saying they're rationing, coming towards rationing supplies. It's bringing mothballed coal-fired power stations back online. Exactly. Building new import terminals for liquefied natural gas.
Takes years.
Yeah, exactly. And planning an auction system to incentivize industrial customers and cut their gas.
Spot market again. Great.
That's it. And companies, meanwhile, have been told to make preparations for the eventuality of a cutoff. In a recent letter to an opposition MP, the economy ministry said all operators of critical infrastructure, such as hospitals, should acquire emergency power generators. And then they're talking again, the European benchmark natural gas prices have soared 8-fold over the past 18 months. And the price doubled in the past month alone, leading many companies to warn that they could not continue to operate at that rate. And then basically saying here, the price, farmers were balking at the increased cost of this fertilizer products, with some accessing illegal imports from Russian fertilizer producers smuggled into the EU via Serbia. The company would, he said, only be able to keep factories running for a few more weeks. So you get the drift that there's a serious crisis. This is Germany. It's not Montenegro.
Well, I mean, it dovetails with what I was saying earlier. So one of the things that the Germans will do is go into debt, which they can't afford to do because servicing that debt is going to cost them more and more.
Right.
And this is pervasive all through the EU, all through the West, actually.
Right.
And so this is a double whammy. Okay, because sure, you can go into debt for this, but that you're going to have to come to terms with that rather sooner than later because of the cost. I mean, this is. Can you spell self-inflicted all over? This is ridiculous.
Right.
And it's Germany, for God's sake,
Right.
okay?
Right. And this is, of course, what's interesting, because nowhere in any of Borrell's blog is there any explanation which he owes to the public of Europe as to why are you doing this? I mean, let's stop all this rules-based order, international law, aggressors and so on. Why are you inflicting this suffering? What's Ukraine to you? What's Ukraine to anyone in Europe? I mean, if you cared so much about Ukraine, why didn't you try and resolve this problem in Ukraine that the Russians have been repeatedly telling you? This needs to be addressed. We need to resolve this problem. They've been doing it for 8 years. You didn't do anything. Now you decided to throw everything at Ukraine. And what's your explanation for all this suffering that you're now going to inflict on the Europeans?
On top of it, Germany and other countries, particularly NATO, but the European Union, they're moneying, supporting, arming Ukrainian military forces to kill Russians. Why should the Russians have any sympathy for your plight that you created yourself? Why?
That's right.
Why should we work? We have media reports that the Ukraine may use its advanced military hardware from the West to attack Crimea. There have been missile attacks against inside of Russia, and so you want Russia to have sympathy and lenience, mercy, when it comes to energy. Why?
No, that's exactly right. They don't ask that very important question. Say, Russia is using energy as a weapon. How dare you? No, we're sending in all these HIMARS, all these, multiple rocket launching systems, killing Russians, killing civilians in Donetsk. We know about the killing civilians, and they're supposed to provide us with heat in the winter. Why?
Yeah.
Why should they?
You weaponized weapons, okay?
Yes.
You weaponized weapons for political purposes. Oh, but the Russians are weaponizing energy. But you keep saying you don't want to get off of Russian energy. I mean, it's like talking to a psychopath.
That's right. It is. And that's one page in the newspaper. Yay! These weapons are making a difference to HIMARS. Oh, look at boom! We're killing all these Russians. Great. What? Give us our goddamn gas. You better send as much gas as we need, because we don't want to be cold this winter. So what? I mean, one minute you're boasting about how many Russians you're killing, and now the Russians are supposed to make sure that Granny will stay warm this winter. I mean, why?
George, it really bothers me. I mean, you're living in Hungary, and Eastern Europe, been the battleground for countless wars in the modern period, even before that. I can understand Americans to some extent because they've never had, since the Civil War, a war on their own soil. But, has this whole leftist anti-historical movement added to this, situation where you don't remember what want was, okay? You don't remember, at least through historical memory, through the generation, soup kitchens, okay, and poverty. And complete social breakdown. You don't remember that, and that's never happened to you, but you're doing it to yourselves.
Right. Yeah. That's right. They're doing it to themselves and unable really to come up with an explanation as to why they're doing so. I mean, that's always the sort of the amazing thing, is that you're not really able to tell us why. What's the agenda here? What goal are you trying to achieve here? You're trying to hurt the Russians. Okay, with a view to what? How does this benefit you? What are you going to get out of this? But it's never, this hysteria just continues. They all just simply act as an echo chamber. And we've got to hurt the Russians. We've got to teach them a lesson. With a view to what? I mean, what?
Yeah. Can you explain how the rules-based order puts food on the table? Right. How the rules-based order fills up your tank? Right. How the rules-based order will keep you warm in the winter? How is that? Is it like a magic wand or something?
Right. Yes, that's right.
And ask the average person, rules-based order, what does it mean? They have no idea. You and I follow this. We still have no idea, other than we have the right to make the rules and punish you.
Right. We were talking yesterday about that interview with Mearsheimer, and that German journalist asked him at one point, well, how come when the United States invaded Iraq, there weren't all these sanctions and no one was getting hysterical about it? He said, yeah, there was some protests. And that was, again, a question that Mearsheimer fluffed it. He couldn't answer her question. He started kind of meandering. Well, nobody really envisaged a war with a superpower and whatnot in Europe. But he kind of didn't answer really the fundamental question. The purveyors of the rules-based international order think that there's one rule for us. We have a right. We get to invade. When we invade, it's because we want to spread democracy. We can rely on the media of the world to propagate our message and to repeat it. But no one else is allowed to do it. When somebody else does it, then it's, of course, a threat to the rules-based order. It's a threat to democracy. It's aggression, violation of international law. It's simply kind of become an inherently part of the Western psyche. And of course, if you're not a Westerner, you're not buying it. And I think, which is why Burrell is in so much trouble.
Well, see, this is where they hit their head against the wall, because let's look at Iraq. Okay. Sure. Rules-based order. Saddam's the next Hitler. There's always the next Hitler in line, always. Okay. And obviously no security threat to the United States, because remember, everyone, if Saddam had chemical weapons and weapons of mass destruction, the West, led by the United States, never would have invaded Iraq. Okay. Right. They never would have done it if they had what they claimed. Okay. Right. But okay, so Iraq is completely gutted, destroyed, massive internal dislocation, civil war, massive death. Oh, and by the way, Iraq is in Iran's orbit now, but that, I'm going on the sides here. But all of that, it didn't affect gasoline prices, food prices, your ability to stay warm in the winter. Right. See, because they have this mindset, well, Saddam's no different than Putin. Let's use the same policy, okay? And it's not the same, okay? Right. And this is with this kind of juvenile approach to things. When you rely purely on ideology, you cannot control real world events, and that's the big problem here. Burrell, he lives in his blog. That's right. That's his reality, his blog.
Right. Right. No, that's right, and that's the amazing thing. I mean, all these people, they get together, the Ursula von der Leyen and the exactly, they meet, and at no point do they address the issue. Well, what are you going to do for your own people? I mean, how are they going to be fed? How are they going to be kept warm? Instead, you preoccupy yourself with Ukraine. I mean, when is that actually part of your remit, that you have to preoccupy yourself with Ukraine and Russia?
Well, there's kind of an echo of American politics here, because the Democratic Party and the goofballs in the Republican Party are going along with this. And if you don't go along, if their supporters don't go along with it, well, they're not worthy. They're not worthy. And it's like Trump supporters. Their opinions are not worthy. Okay, so they should be punished. They should suffer. Okay, I tend to think this is transmigrated to Europe. I mean, if you're not part of the elite opinion, then why should we keep you warm? Okay. I really think that it's permeating the entire elite political culture. I mean, if you don't understand why we need sanctions and you're pro-Putin, okay, then you should suffer.
I absolutely agree, because I think there is this kind of liberal political media culture in which the participants in it all share the same point of view, and they all agree Putin is the most evil thing imaginable. We have to sacrifice everything in order to defeat Putin. We, however, who are prosperous and live in nice houses in London or in Manhattan or in Madrid or wherever, we're going to be okay. But it's them's the breaks. If other people suffer, they're suffering for a cause that we recognize as worthy. So it's the same way with when Borrell suddenly brings up climate. That's it, which is great, nice, fantastic. We're cutting ourselves off from fossil fuels. Yay! That's been our agenda all along. So they live in this bubble and talking to themselves.
Sacrifices must be made, and you are the ones that will make the sacrifice.
That's right, exactly. Yes.
It
is. Yes. Yeah. That's right.
As long as it takes. As long as it takes.
As long as it takes.
Joe Biden would say, as long as it takes.
Right. There's some column in the Guardian today. Some Simon Tisdall, one of the awful columnists, saying, NATO's got to basically take it to Russia. They basically have got to go to war with Russia. So no, I'm not calling for a third world war. No, not a third world war. No third world war.
This is the same kind of journalist who's working on his fourth pint at lunch.
Exactly. Okay. That's exactly it.
I've seen it. I've seen it with my own eyes.
Okay. That's exactly it. And then this is he says something like we must repel Russia's repulsive hordes. And great. And of course as you say, he's working on his pint. he isn't going to the front line. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, he isn't actually himself going to the front line. I mean, these people who are all calling for war, Max Boot or Bill Kristol, I'm a little old, I'm afraid, my pot belly is a little bit too potty. But my son can't go either because he's in college. But you Rubes, you go do the fighting.
Well, you and I, maybe if we have time, later in the summer, we can do a comparison of journalistic coverage of the Crimean War and coverage of Russia today. I bet you see the same adjectives, George. Yeah. The same one. You just gave it a perfect example.
That's
okay.
Yeah,
bad habits are hard to kick, aren't they? Okay. Yes. It's all out of self-interest. Okay. And it's one of the things that we've seen. We had the Cold War. The Soviet Union was an ideological opponent, okay? But then Brzezinski kind of spilled the beans. No, it's actually anti-Russian. And all of the negative elements of the human character, you project onto someone else. Yes. We're not that way. They're that way. But in fact, they are that way, okay? And it is a deflection. It's always finding a stab in the back. Why something? Well, it's Putin's fault. It's Russia's fault. Okay, That's right. For everything. Yes. And when you go down that path, you don't solve any problems.
No.
Okay.
No, they don't. I mean, and I don't think they're interested in solving problems. I mean, I think that they're essentially interested in perpetuating their power. They becomes very significant. Get another G7 foreign ministers meeting, now a G7 finance ministers meeting, and the G7 prime ministers meeting. We can have all these endless meetings, and then we're sure, Putin, sure, we're gonna get you, Putin.
I bet you Burrell has a buffet menu wall. Oh yeah, that was in Madrid last month. Yeah, that was good oysters there. I remember that. Yeah. And superb champagne, superb. Okay, and it was for breakfast.
That's right, exactly. Remember, Madeleine Albright was famous for always insisting, whenever she flew anywhere, that the U.S. embassy where she would stay, laid on a first-rate dinner for her. Basically it had to be, top-rate chefs had to come and cook her dinner for her. I mean, so every U.S. embassy that was expecting her visit, oh my God, we really have to, hire a cordon bleu chef because she's going to get mad if she doesn't get a 5-course meal.
Perks of power. Okay, that's
Exactly.
my favorite. Okay, I mean, if you're going to be flown everywhere, you're going to be wined and dined. Okay, you definitely want to keep that going. Okay, and then you make sure your children live that way as well. Okay, right. Send Hunter over to Ukraine. He actually never went there. You don't have to. Okay.
It will be kind of interesting.
We need a board. Okay. Yeah. Okay. We got Burisma. Okay. All right.
That's right.
Okay, there you go, Hunter. Okay.
Yeah.
You can work remote. You can work remote before people worked remote.
That's right. But it would be interesting, like if we could find out, like we found out about Nancy Pelosi's drinks schedule. How much drink she consumes when she flies from Washington to her home state in California. It's mind-boggling. All the great scotches, great bourbons. I mean, everything was consumed.
Well, the good thing is that when she travels abroad, she went to Rome again. Do you knew that? Okay.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
It's looks like she's doing her farewell tour. But I mean, if you're flying from California to Rome, you can get really loaded and be, sober up by the time you land. Okay. I bet her flights are wild. Okay.
But I mean, it'd be kind of interesting if we could find out, let's say, Ursula von der Leyen. What does she insist on? What kind of meals? Because I'm sure she looks like somebody who also insists on first-rate dinners to be laid on for her. She's not gonna sit there eating a burger. I mean, she doesn't look like someone who's going to satisfy me with a burger and French fries.
Well, Burrell has not missed a meal in a long time.
I don't think so.
Okay, that's right. Okay, it's all for the people. Okay,
right.
He's wiping his brow. Okay?
Exactly. Exactly.
All right, everybody. George and I had a good one with this one here. Josep Borrell, please keep that blog going. I mean,
Exactly.
it's a gift that keeps on giving. We love to point out your contradictions, your omissions. Work footnotes a little bit more, okay? Hyperlinks wouldn't
Yeah,
hurt.
that's a hyperlinks would be good. But yes, I mean, the Burrell blog is a must read, because
Must
we like to have a good laugh, and it's always, oh great, Burrell's got a new blog up, so we can.
George and I gave up on Saturday Night Live like 20 years ago, but we have a new replacement now, okay? It's the Burrell blog.
Burrell blog, yeah.
All right, everybody, this is Peter and George. We are The Gaggle. We're on local, so please go to thegaggle.locals.com. Please visit our store. There's lots of good stuff there. And since it is Monday, we all know that everyone's checked their calendar for tomorrow. George's live stream.
Exactly. There's just a little more than 24 hours to go. So, it's going to be hard to get through the next 24 hours. 3 p.m. Eastern time. Please join me for my locals live stream. It's always a lot of fun. Come with questions, criticism, suggestions. Everything is welcome. And on the way out the door to the local watering hole, see if there's anything jingling in your pockets. If there is, think of little buddy, because he looks at that tip jar and he gets really, really depressed. And a buddy depressed that's not a pretty sight. So we're very grateful for all your help and friendship and support. The more you're able to donate, the more of these videos we can make. And above all, the happier the dogs will be, because as you can see, they're really despondent. So remember, if you like The Gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye.